If Senator Bob Packwood really did what all those women say he did, it probably would have cost him his job long ago in corporate America, so why not in Washington?
Not only keep your job, you become the most powerful chairman of the most powerful committee in the United States Senate.
Is Packwood too powerful to punish? A touchy subject on Eye on America tonight on the CBS Evening News.
What happens when a sergeant leaves the Army for the second grade?
We like to study.
Turning troops into teachers.
Tomorrow on CBS This Morning.
Don't sleep with the windows open. You could catch your death.
He's dead.
Take the Burke's Law scream test.
I think we should have an interview with a vampire.
Thursday.
This is CBS.
Coming up next on Eyewitness News, a fire in Northwest sends a firefighter to the hospital. And the O.J. Simpson jury gets another shakeup. We'll bring you a live report.
We have a witness to some wild weather. Takes you right into the eye of the storm. Topper?
We have some clouds and the remnants of Allison now passing generally to the south and east. Coming up, we'll tell you how much rain will fall and where. Stay with us. Eyewitness News at noon is next.
Now from Channel 9, Washington's news station. This is Eyewitness News.
A mother convicted of murder and child abuse in the death of her 7-year-old daughter should find out this afternoon whether she receives the death sentence or life in prison. We'll have a live report in a few moments. Good afternoon, I'm Mac Lee. Andrea Roan is off today.
And I'm Bob Dalton. A blaze in a 6-story building early this morning in Northwest sent one firefighter to the hospital. Spokesperson says the blaze began in the basement of the empty building, spread to the 3rd floor, and this is the way it was then.
What made it extremely difficult was that on the 1st floor, there were a lot of compartmented spaces. So that had to be dealt with, and also with the fact that because it extended up through the walls, it started showing up on each of the upper floors one at a time.
Cost of the damage, that's still to be determined.
And then there were two. 2 alternates are all that remain of the pool of extra jurors in the O.J. Simpson case. Joining us live from outside the Los Angeles County Courthouse is Manuel Gallegos with the latest developments.
The defense lost its bid to keep Willie Craven on the jury. He was one of 2 panelists dismissed yesterday by Judge Ito after an investigation that apparently went on for some time. Craven says the judge told him he was intimidating other jurors. He says all he did was speak his mind, and because of that, other jurors had a vendetta against him. On CBS This Morning, it was apparent that Craven was by no means convinced of O.J. Simpson's guilt. While he said the DNA evidence against Simpson was interesting, but
on the other hand, they said some of the blood was missing, so you had some options and had to try to think how was part of the blood missing, and then the detective that found the glove, nobody knew where he was for a certain period of time, so how did he end up finding the glove? So there was a lot of things that went on that were questionable.
with only 2 alternate jurors remaining now, the trial resumes with the LA County coroner back on the stand. Dr. Lakshmanan will talk about those gruesome autopsy photos of victims Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. But first, Judge Ito must rule on O.J. Simpson's request to leave the courtroom during that testimony. Simpson's lawyers say the defendant becomes extremely upset at the sight of the graphic photos of his ex-wife.
And we'll have a live report from Manuel Gallegos a little later in the newscast. Bob?
The mother convicted of murder and child abuse in the death of her 7-year-old daughter today waived her right to jury sentencing, which means the trial judge will decide whether Pauline Zile dies in an electric chair or faces life in prison. Now, Zile falsely claimed at first her 7-year-old daughter, Christina Holt, had been abducted. Prosecutors say Zile stood by while her husband beat his stepdaughter until the little girl went into convulsions and died last September. Her attorney says prosecutors presented evidence Zile was even in the same room when Christina died or even abused her daughter. Now, we'll go live to West Palm Beach for the latest on that in a few minutes.
Hoping to close a chapter on a national trauma, prosecutors in Japan today charged cult leader Shoko Asahara with murder in the Tokyo subway attack. 6 top lieutenants and 9 other cult disciples have also been charged today in the March nerve gas attack that killed 12 people and left more than 5,000 people sick. Asahara has been under police interrogation since he was taken into custody 3 weeks ago. The 40-year-old cult leader has maintained his innocence, but police say key followers have directly implicated him. A fourth person has now been found guilty in the murder of an American exchange student in South Africa. Amy Beale was stabbed, stoned, and battered to death nearly 2 years ago. Today, the judge told the Supreme Court that Nothambiko Penny had enthusiastically and wholeheartedly taken part in a barbaric attack. 3 Pan-African Congress student members were each sentenced to 18 years in prison last October after being found guilty of murdering Beale. The 26-year-old student was on the last day of a 10-month research fellowship to South Africa when she was attacked. UN peacekeepers still held hostage by Bosnian Serbs may see freedom later today. Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic says an agreement has been reached with Bosnian Serbs to release the remaining 250 UN personnel. Serb troops are gathering the hostages together from various locations where they have been held captive. Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic has not yet confirmed the release, but he has apparently backed away from earlier statements in which he demanded an end to NATO airstrikes in exchange for the hostages' freedom. And the arrival of heavy equipment and military personnel in Croatia represents the first step in a plan to reinforce UN peacekeepers. British troops are flying into the city of Split, Croatia, bringing with them artillery guns and transport vehicles. The British contingent is part of the new European Rapid Deployment Force that is charged with safeguarding UN peacekeepers in Bosnia. The convoy of men and weapons will head inland for central Bosnia in the coming days. A government operation aimed at eradicating a Colombian drug cartel nets some former U.S. justice officials in Miami. The biggest federal investigation into the South American drug trade to date has resulted in the indictments of 61 people for conspiring to smuggle cocaine. They include 2 former federal prosecutors who had previously worked to stem the flow of drugs from the Colombian Cali cartel. The U.S. attorney in Miami announced the indictments yesterday following a 44-month investigation into the financing and movement of drugs from abroad.
Handcuffs, leg irons, waist chains couldn't keep a 40-year-old man from escaping yesterday. Police say that Raymond Bell was being watched by 2 correctional officers also when he and 11 other mates were being transferred from the Baltimore City Detention Center to the police station. Well, when the officers got the inmates into the station house, they found Bell was gone. The commissioner of the Division of Pretrial Detention says both guards have been suspended pending hearing on their possible termination. And a man claiming to have a bomb is holed up in an Anne Arundel County motel. He's been there since early yesterday afternoon and refused to even identify himself to police or even come out or talk to them. Authorities evacuated all guests from this motel. Nobody injured, but they're still there. And an attorney for Jeffrey Gilbert has tentatively scheduled a press conference for later this afternoon. Now, Gilbert is filing a police brutality suit against the Prince George's County Police Department, alleging that the officers beat him severely during his arrest in April. Charges were dropped against Gilbert in the shooting death of Sergeant John Nobliski last Friday after new evidence emerged. Now, Gilbert is free on bail stemming from an unrelated burglary charge.
A 4-year-old child fell out of an apartment window to his death in Baltimore last night. Investigators are calling it an accident and say that the youngster, Salam Olamib, may have been pillow fighting with another child near a window in the family's 14th floor apartment. The accident happened around 6:15 Monday evening at apartments on North Charles Street.
Christopher Reeves recovering now from surgery to stabilize his spinal column. Surgeons are not speculating yet on long-term prognosis for the actor's recovery, though. Yesterday's successful surgery to fuse 2 shattered vertebrae will make it possible for Reeves to at least sit up in bed. Reeves currently is paralyzed from the neck down from that fall suffered over Memorial Day weekend from his horse. Doctors say it will take several weeks or maybe months before the full extent of damage to Reeves' spinal cord is really known. And American astronaut Norm Thagard is setting a record in space. Today he spends his 85th day in the orbit around the Earth. It's a new U.S. record. Thagard has been aboard the Russian space station Mir since March. Our high-flying astronaut is scheduled to return to Earth on the space shuttle. Until that time, every day he stays in space marks a new U.S. endurance record.
Updating one of our top stories, Pauline Zile could find out in a few moments whether she will be sentenced to death or spend the rest of her life in jail. Joining us now from West Palm Beach is Al Pefley. Al, what can you tell us?
Well, the judge has 2 options in this case, Mac, either Florida's electric chair or life behind bars. And because of what's happened here today, The judge will not have any recommendation from the jury to go on. Defense attorneys for Pauline Zile told the judge this morning that she wanted to waive her right to have a jury recommend what her sentence should be. And so, about 11 this morning, the judge thanked the jury and excused them for good. 2 months ago, that same jury convicted Zile of first-degree murder. Police say Pauline Zile watched her husband, John, beat to death her 7-year-old daughter, Christina Holt, last September, and she did not try to stop him. John is accused of hiding the little girl's body in a closet here in West Palm Beach for 4 days and then burying her body behind a Kmart store. To cover up the death, the Ziles made up a hoax that the girl disappeared at a flea market in Fort Lauderdale. There's been no indication from the judge exactly when he'll announce his decision, but again, he has only 2 choices, either death in Florida's electric chair or life behind bars for Pauline Zile. Her husband, John Zile, is scheduled to go on trial for murder in August. Bob, Mac?
Thank you, Al. Next on Eyewitness News, new ways to take the gray out of your hair. I've got the gray. You got the
Same here. I have both.
You won't believe this, too. Some residents in Texas have some incredible pictures to show you of tornadoes, wild and woolly. That's coming up, too.
And what can we expect later today, Topper?
Well, we're looking at some showers and thunderstorms, Mac and Bob, mainly south of town. We'll show you the national radar. We clearly see the remnants of Allison right here. For the most part, she's going to take a northeasterly track and just kind of graze us in the mid-Atlantic region, the metro area. But the lower bay and southeastern Virginia get some pretty significant rains. We'll talk about that and some hot weather headed our way as well when we come back. Stay with us.
Updating our other top story, more turmoil in the O.J. Simpson case. Let's go live to Manuel Gallegos in Los Angeles. Manuel, only 2 alternates left.
That's right, Mac. 2 alternates left and several months to go. 2 out of the original 12 are all that is left. We thought that perhaps the defense would get to keep one of the jurors on the panel that was dismissed yesterday, but they lost that bid to keep the juror on the panel, and now both jurors have been dismissed, and we're in the process of looking for 2 more alternates. Judge Ito hasn't made that announcement yet. In fact, right now what's going on is a media attorney is actually arguing before Judge Ito regarding the autopsy photos. The press is fighting to have access to the photos, not to broadcast them necessarily, but to see them because they feel that they are relevant to the prosecution's case. Judge Ito apparently hasn't decided whether that's going to happen or not.
Manuel, Alan Dershowitz says today that the prosecution wants a mistrial so it can retry Simpson. Any word from the prosecution on that?
Nothing official, and it's interesting that that comes from Alan Dershowitz. Everybody thinks that the defense is not after a mistrial because they feel that their client is innocent and they want to see this original trial carried out. But secretly, sort of, legal analysts say the defense may be seeking a mistrial because they feel that they have a good argument against having a second trial. And by fighting the dismissal of juror Craven, it's an indication of that, because basically what they're doing is showing that O.J. Simpson is satisfied with the current panel and the current situation, and if the judge continues to dismiss jurors and that leads to a mistrial in this original trial, that he shouldn't be eligible for a second one, because it's in effect double jeopardy, trying the same person for the same case twice.
Manuel, is there any provision in California state law to have a jury less than 12?
Well, they can go with a jury less than 12 if both sides agree. They can have 11 jurors, for example, try the case and hear it out through the end as long as both sides agree. Of course, it doesn't seem that both sides would agree at this point. Apparently, the prosecution is very concerned about the jury being in Simpson's favor, and it might be to their advantage to have a second trial because they feel like they can get another jury and try it in a different county and maybe have an advantage the second time around. And also, you have to remember that the prosecution was sort of rushed into this. This happened a lot faster than they ever expected it to, and even before all of their evidence results had come in, they were already well into the trial, and perhaps they'll be better prepared the next time.
Thank you, Manuel. Manuel Gallegos in Los Angeles, the O.J. Simpson trial.
And Topper shut to my left with a look at the forecast. I know. What
are you doing?
The time.
What are you doing here?
Isn't it 5:30?
Yes, 5:30. Good morning once again.
Both of you guys have toothpicks holding up your eyes.
You're
Yes,
absolutely
we probably
right.
do.
Yes.
We have the remnants of Allison passing to the south of us and to the east of us. But before we do that, we showed you this morning, and this, you never get tired of seeing this video. This is the tornado video taken Sunday night in Texas, Lace Buddy, Texas, in the Panhandle. This gentleman captured 6 tornadoes on videotape. His name is Dennis Steinbach, and it's very rare to see one tornado and get close enough to get video of it, let alone 6. And that is certainly the biggest and most well-defined. Some of the other ones were a little bit on the smaller side. No injuries, no damage. This is farm country. In fact, he is a farmer himself, and he just couldn't resist taking home video of it. We'll probably see more of this tape in weeks and days to come. Now we'll go to Utah. And they had incredible thunderstorms in portions of Utah and around the Wendover area, packing winds up to 100 miles per hour. It blew at least 17 semi-tractor trailer trucks off the road. And this happened last night, and a 90 stretch mile of the freeway had to be closed off. And the storm also toppled trees and ripped off roofs on houses as well. And we're looking at some people actually were injured by shattering windows. A doctor in Wendover says 9 people were treated at his clinic and released. Now, totally unrelated to weather. Although if the weather had been bad, it would have been a problem. Pink Floyd's new album, the CD, is released today. Yesterday, they got permission from the FAA to take the Empire State Building and do a laser show from the top of it.
Amazing.
Each laser light could go 3,000 feet in the air, emit a beam 3,000 feet in the air, and take 6 gallons of water to cool it per minute. Took two crews, 8 hours in shifts to perform this.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. You know. When rock and roll fans get big and have much money, they can do stuff like that. Yeah. All right, 73 degrees at the airport. The relative humidity, oddly enough, is also 73%, though, 2.64. Pressure falling, rather low, too, 29.78 inches of mercury. The winds northeasterly at 13. Air quality in the good to moderate range today. And the pollen count, 61 for grasses this morning. High and low yesterday. Pretty close to average, 82 and 63. Averages on this date, 83 and 64. Records, 97, set in 1925, and the record low, 46, way back in 1894. We will begin with temperatures, as usual, on our school check, and generally in the 70s. Because of the cloud cover, looks like we'll hold in the 70s to near 80 today. 72 in Glenwood, 73 at the Gunston School in Centerville, 71 in Brandywine. If we had sunshine, the atmosphere would support temperatures well into the upper 80s. But because of the cloud cover, a little bit cooler, 72 in Springfield and 70 out in Kaiser Middle. Satellite picture. This is the remnants now of Allison as it begins to pull to the northeast. And it looks like by tomorrow morning, at least by mid-morning, we'll be done with this system. Pretty good thunderstorms pushing through portions of the Midwest, and a very cool rain out in the Pacific Northwest and also northern Rockies. Even some snow will fall again today. Snowed yesterday in Reno. Probably some snow again today in the higher elevations of Montana. Once Allison, or the remnants thereof, passes to our south and east, we're looking at setting up the stages for a pretty hot week. Temperatures around 90, it looks like, for the next several days. We'll zoom in on the radar. The eastern one half of North Carolina under a flood watch. Heavy convection now occurring south of Cape Hatteras. And generally speaking, that's where the heaviest rain will be across eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, the Hampton Roads, and the Delmarva. Our forecast in detail for the metro area. Then for this afternoon, variable cloudiness, shower or thunderstorm possible again, but mainly east, 75 to 80. And then for tonight, showers and thunderstorms possible, but again, mainly east, lows in the 60s. Tomorrow, skies will become partly cloudy, rather hot too, about 90. And then we roll into Thursday. Look at this, partly cloudy and hot with showers and thunderstorms. Highs again around 90. So the forecast for the remainder of the week is going to be very familiar to the Washington area, hot and humid with a few thunderstorms. Mac, Bob?
Okay, Topper, thank you. When we return, there's a brand new face at the National Zoo with a long neck.
And a new report links radon gas found in homes to lung cancer. We'll have the details.
A new study says radon gas in homes just might be responsible for up to 10% of lung cancer deaths in America. The projection is based on a review of lung cancer cases among minors who do work where radon is common. But the authors say the estimate should be interpreted with some caution because minors are also exposed to other chemicals that could affect the lung cancer rate. The study will appear in the Journal of National Cancer Institute.
In sports, Andre Agassi, the #1 ranked tennis player in the world, was upset at the French Open just moments ago. Agassi was defeated in straight sets by 9th-seeded Yevgeny Kafelnikov of Russia. A strained hip flexor muscle kept Agassi from running and hitting aggressive shots. The popular American has never won the French Open, one of tennis's 4 major tournaments. Warner Wolf will have complete highlights of that match and top-seeded Steffi Graf later on Eyewitness News. And coming up next on Eyewitness News, it's a girl. We'll have an update on the birth of the baby giraffe at the National Zoo.
And we'll check the Wall Street numbers, too. They're up. Last time out yet. Scientists at the Anti-Cancer Corporation in San Diego, California, have discovered a natural way to grow colored hair from the roots up. Sandra Moss explains why cosmetic companies and hair care makers are knocking down the door of this cancer research laboratory.
Millions of Americans wash the gray right out of their hair every single day. The store shelves are packed with hair coloring products. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. But what's inside this tube may put those temporary hair colors and dyes out of business. It's melanin. It's what gives your hair its natural color.
When your hair turns gray, is you no longer produce the melanin that goes into the hair.
A San Diego biotech lab called Anti-Cancer Corporation has discovered a way to put the melanin, or color, back inside the hair follicle permanently. Look at the hair under a microscope.
This is a naturally colored hair, and you can see the coloring is on the inside of the hair. This is a gray hair, and you can see there's no coloring, but there's empty voids in the hair. And this is the hair which we've colored using our technology.
The hair coloring agent contains liposomes that attach themselves to hair follicles, delivering the natural melanin or color to growing hair. The coloring agent never goes into the bloodstream. It's washed in and safe, just like a conditioner.
So it grows into the inside of the hair, and so it can't be shampooed out, it won't wash out, and it's not bleached out by the sun like regular coloring. And it grows from the roots and stays in your hair permanently.
But it doesn't happen overnight. The color gradually appears as it grows. Scientists can make hair grow in any color, even green. Talk about a hair-raising idea. Now the lab is in the middle of a bidding war.
We've probably been contacted by
For CBS News.
Well, it's official. National Zoo's latest addition is a she. Zookeepers are being kept busy today by a newborn giraffe. She was up and walking just 20 minutes after her birth yesterday. So far, the baby looks healthy and happy and is already a strapping 5 feet 10 inches tall. Zookeepers haven't yet named the giraffe.
Thanks for joining us.
Right?
See you tomorrow lunchtime.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow morning.